we begin.
The first and most important thing for me was I wanted to make sure that the movie felt like it was its own movie, that you didn't need to see anything, certainly not the old TV show. A lot of sequels that I've seen kind of assume that you care and assume that you sort of just saw the first film. And that always seems to me like a mistake, because you need to treat it like a brand new thing. It needs to work on its own terms. The first movie, which was really fun to do, was very much an origin story of watching these characters come together for the first time. So there really weren't any deep roots. There was no real history. It was sort of the very firsts for all of them. And so this story was much more about these characters really being tested in a way, and sort of taking this family that we saw form in the first film that you meet in this movie, and seeing them be put through a kind of gauntlet, and to see, will they come out the other end, and if so, in what form, and who will survive.
They're closing fast, bearing 285.
All right, there, we can lose them there.
You are suggesting that we utilize the passage between the approaching structures. This ship will not fit.
We'll fit.
Captain, we will not fit.
We'll fit! We'll fit! I told you we'd fit.
I am not sure that qualifies.
I think what you might find surprising is how relevant the story is. That you know, you think Star Trek, and I think, at least I used to think, oh, sort of crazy science fiction, that's sort of another thing. But the more we've worked on this, the more I've worked on it, the more I realize this is really an extension of us, of who we are. What Roddenberry was doing brilliantly at the time in '66 when he created the show was he was talking about the geopolitical state of things, and putting people together who were actually at odds in a very specific way. And so the idea of seeing people of different, you know, political backgrounds, races, men and women working together, there were quite a few barriers broken in that show. Now, this story of these characters being tested, issues of loyalty and family and sacrifice, and dealing with the enemy in whatever form is much about today as anything.
Your commanders have committed a crime I cannot forgive. None of you are safe.
Clear the road!
Have I got your attention now?
One of the great things about working with, you know, Eric Bana on the first movie is that he played Nero, who was this great, perfect bad guy for that movie, because he was just a raving lunatic. He was just a furious ball of revenge. And it was really wonderful, and it was the perfect kind of villain for those new, you know, to each other characters. In this film, Star Trek Into Darkness, the character that they're up against is a far more layered and complex guy who has his own absolute agenda, and is someone who they've got to grapple with in an entirely different way, and is honestly far more horrifying because of his quiet and thoughtfulness and the potential for manipulation. And I think that there isn't a better actor, certainly for this role, but perhaps period, than Benedict Cumberbatch, who was remarkable to work with.
Enjoy these final moments of peace.
Immediately when he came on set, it was on, and like everyone just was on their A game at all times. Like no one was slacking, because there was something about Benedict's, you know, focus and his presence that really just helped challenge everyone to do the best possible job. It was awesome.
I am better.
At what?
Everything.
Kirk and Spock definitely have their issues in this movie, and the fun of watching that play out is that it's against a pretty extraordinary backdrop. So the movie is constantly in this bizarre tightrope act, where you're sort of, you know, on the one hand you've got this unbelievable scale and scope, and on the other hand you've got this, you know, often very funny and odd sort of intimacy. So the idea of balancing both of those things is kind of the primary challenge of a movie like this.
The heat's frying his comms, but we still have contact.
Spock, nobody knows the rules better than you, but there has got to be an exception.
None. Such action violates the Prime Directive.
Shut up, Spock. We're trying to save you, damn it.
Doctor, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Spock, we're talking about your life!
The rule cannot be broken.
Spock!
Try to get him back online.
90 seconds to detonations. Spock were here and I were there, what would he do?
He'd let you die.
What is it to be really good friends with a Vulcan? It's something we've all thought about. But what is it like to date a Vulcan? You know, Uhura and Spock were an item in the first movie. What is that really like? You know, why would anyone choose as a partner someone who chooses not to feel? And that must become an issue at some point, and it does.
We're gonna do this, we gotta do it now! You ready to swim?
I'm ready.
Have any idea how ridiculous it is to hide a starship on the bottom of the ocean? We've been doing here since last night.
There are so many things you get to see that you never saw before. Areas of the Enterprise. I remember in the first film when the shuttles were leaving San Francisco, heading up to the Enterprise. I just remember looking at that city and thinking, God, I would love to do a scene, like a great, cool, fun chase scene in that city. Because it was at such a distance that you just had a sort of sense of it, but you didn't get to be in it. And so one of the fun things about Star Trek Into Darkness was we got to do that stuff. So there's a bunch of stuff that takes place in London and San Francisco that are, you know, real on the street level stuff, and you get to kind of see what it looks like, you know, 100 years from now. It was, of course, important that we do things that felt very different, that we do things that felt unexpected, and most importantly, that feel real. I mean, the thing that drives me crazy with any movie is that feeling that you're on a set, and especially when you're seeing a scene that is, without question, on a set. It's sort of your double duty to make sure that that thing looks legitimate. So, for example, a lot of scenes that take place in various outdoor locations are often filmed interior sound stages and then later made to look like they're outdoors. But we got to shoot our scenes properly outdoors, building some significant sets, if not portions of sets, so that what you were seeing was never actors on a green screen stage with nothing, which is not an uncommon thing. You know, two people standing in a forest, and you can just immediately know those are actual people actually standing in an actual place, or you can say those are two people standing somewhere and then made to look like, you just know it immediately. So despite working with brilliant visual effects supervisor Roger Guyette, and ILM, we really wanted to make sure that their work was about expanding locations.
I hate this! I know you do! Jim, the beach is that way!
It's entertaining, it's scary, it's romantic, it's adventurous, but at the core of it, I think it feels oddly grounded.
Punch it. Tell me this is gonna work.
I believe in you.
Come on, it's gonna be fun.
You know when you're watching a movie and you hear a line and it feels like, oh, they thought that was gonna be a line in the trailer. Like you just know that on the set, someone was like, that's a trailer moment. Like it doesn't, because it doesn't feel real necessarily in life, but it just feels like, it's a great soundbite, it's a great thing. There's a visual equivalent of that, and you gotta be really careful, because sometimes I'll think, this is like one of those moments, and then you end up doing it, and the truth is it ends up feeling posed. It just doesn't feel authentic. I try for those sometimes, they never seem to work. I think that the key for any of this stuff, and you know, whether we've accomplished it or not is up to the audience, but I think that the key to any movie working, certainly a movie called Star Trek, which, you know, could, you know, be seen as campy, is finding authenticity. And it's, whether it's in a little nuance, a little moment, a character exchange, a look, a glance, or a huge plot point, there's something for me that is, if I don't really understand what's going on, if I can't really get into or under the skin of these characters, none of the spectacle is going to matter.